Welcome back to the Chatooine Show, everyone, the best and brightest podcast in the galaxy, filled with the wretched hive of scum and villainy. We're here every Wednesday nights talking about all things Star Wars and even more in the future. And I'm Star Wars only. Tonight I'm joined with Lunga and Palp Memes, and it's finally here, the long-awaited series finale of The Acolyte. This is great news because it means it's finally over, and we don't have to do this every week. It's also awful news because now there's nothing to talk about for the rest of the year. But that's okay. That's okay, because we're here tonight to talk about everything on the final episode of The Acolyte, titled The Acolyte. It's fucking peak writing. So if you're watching this live or listening to it later, please leave us a like, help the show out. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel, and you can see future episodes of us covering now, not The Acolyte, but Skeleton Crew, Andor. And next week and the week after, we'll be talking more about other things going forward. So follow us on the social medias and everything like that. All the descriptions are in the below. Join us on our Discord, so we'll chat with you guys. And if you really enjoy this nonsense of a show, you can become a channel member. Get your member berries in. You remember those? Or you can leave us a super chat during the show and we'll answer any questions you have. Speaking of which, we already got 2 super chats before everything started up. Bring these up. Leor, a loyal member of the members, he says, I hate how this show seriously tried to gaslight the audience into believing Soul did something truly horrible. Also, keep up the good work, my guys. I appreciate you, my brother. My member. I remember you, Leor. Katie Miller gave us just a nice little wave over here. Nice little hi.
Super sticker. Doing? It's a little number one banner that they're waving, yeah.
Because he is
we are the number one show.
We are the number one Star Wars show, not by ratings or anything else, but in our minds and your hearts, we are number one. But make us number one. Leave a like, tell a friend, turn those notifications on, so anytime we go live, you don't miss this banger of a podcast. But speaking of bangers,
6 of 10.
You guys see
banger according to Sure and Polly.
Ooh. And I love the nuance to our audience, because everyone knows that just because it's a banger episode or a banger series doesn't mean it's a good thing, Like, there's some boxing and MMA fights that are just bangers, but they're absolutely awful to watch. So, I'm so nervous to get into this because last week we did this for like almost 2 fucking hours. That was one of our longer shows. But yes, last night, episode 8 of The Acolyte, titled The Acolyte, came out. Some have said banger. Some have said it's the worst thing since World War II. So let's go to our initial reactions. Lunga, get your little 2-minute timer ready. Collect your thoughts, sir. Let me know, what was your initial reaction to last night's episode of The Acolyte? When did you watch it? What were the feelings you had the second you ended those credits?
I want to preface this with saying I don't even need a timer for this.
I heard that. All right.
I watched it today because I had was doing D&D last night, so I watched it twice today because a certain cameo was literally a blink and you miss it. I mean, it was that low, but I guess I can sum it up this way. I'll say this. If you don't care about story and you just look at the episode, it was a good finale. If you don't care about writing. But I was it a banger? I'll sum it up this way. What I just watched is one of the most erratically disjointed shows I've ever seen. At no point in its rambling dialogue, irreverent narrative, or inconsistent plot were they even close to anything that could be considered successful storytelling. A 2-second Easter egg, which I predicted, by the way, of Plagueis acting like Pennywise does not make up for the immense amount of loose story threads that they irresponsibly introduced, that they obviously had zero intention of building on in hopes that they'll get a season 2. At least it's not a series finale like Clone Wars, or not Clone Wars, like Bad Batch, that just said, fuck these other story threads. But yeah, everyone in the fandom is now dumber for having watched it, even those that enjoyed it.
I love that Happy Gilmore reference. I remember Happy Gilmore and Adam Sandler. Palpa memes.
Certified banger, 2 of 10.
I love it.
Ratings already out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, ratings are at the end, but that's Oh man! Next week we'll talk about the whole series. But yes, Palpatine's. Give me
you might
your
want to
reaction.
throw the timer up for me, Longa, just because I don't know where this tangent's gonna go.
Yeah,
I'll be sure to talk about specific story plot points.
We all know you're a rambling man, so you know it's
the ADHD catches up to me.
There's a song. There's a song that only should remember.
Ramble on.
Ramble man.
Oh yeah,
that's outside of my category. Was that by the Eagles?
Shut the fuck up! I gotta restart the timer. You've already lost like 10 seconds. Now let me restart it. Just wait,
back, please.
Yeah. Okay, Speaker, can I? You okay? You are granted back in 10 seconds. Here we go.
I watched this last night a little bit after it came out. I had a great workout. I had a really good chest workout. That was what I remembered most. But man, this episode, it happened, and it was so frustrating because every episode of this show has not answered anything or fulfilled anything. They just bring up more questions, and that is very consistent with this episode. Apparently, Mae and Yoshi are one person, yet they decide they're not going to explain how that works or what the repercussions or consequences of that are. It just happens, even though they very easily and well could have just been twins. That happened. Darth Plagueis looks like a crusty old cracker, apparently, and even though he's supposed to be a leader of Damask Holdings and be some really, really high up man, whatever, but nothing came about from him. Osha decides to kill her master and decides to join her sister, whom she hated and didn't give a shit that was dead for 16 years out of nowhere. We got some really cool action. That's one thing I'll give this episode, is I thought the action was really cool. I like the choreography. But as a finale, it didn't wrap anything up in a way that I felt was satisfying or conclusive. We got Reylo 2.0, which anyone who knows me knows how I feel about Reylo, and this is awful. And wow, I'm not surprised that the episode was the way it was. I'm not surprised it was this bad, but it was also at the same time somehow shocking, because it was like, wow, they somehow made everything worse. They made the Jedi worse. They made everything more moronic. They made that stupid little groundhog guy, for some reason, moronic. And
the biggest one? You'll get 10 more seconds.
Go ahead.
You're done? No, I was because you brought him up. I completely forgot about him. Why the fuck was he tearing up the ship? They didn't fucking explain why the fuck he was tearing up the ship.
I did want to talk about that later. Yeah, that's an odd choice that they did.
And I'll actually take my 10 seconds. That is a perfect representation of this entire show. Characters and just things happen because the plot needs them to happen without any rhyme or reason for said thing happening. Point being, just fucking Osha doing what she did.
You're young enough to say this. They happen because ... reasons.
Reasons. Apparently we don't need like A to B to C to D. Apparently we just need A to Z. And then we're supposed to be like, this is, and then all the people on Twitter are like, we got Plagueis. How could you not be happy? We got a little CGI render through Blender of Plagueis that was probably
We also got Boba Fett.
I remember Bob's feet. You guys remember Book of Bob? I remember Bob.
Oh, I love to remember Boba. Boba's my favorite one to remember.
Boba T.
God, I remember that fucking cat. What's up with you and cats, bro? Why aren't you a dog?
It's my brothers.
Be a dog.
And she acts like a dog. But anyways.
I'm sure. Well, I will take, Senator, I would take my time, my 2 minutes. And I would like to say,
hold on,
with my initial reaction.
There you go.
This is the Acolyte. It's literally called the Acolyte. Not only are the titles confusing, so is the goddamn story. This episode has done what every other episode in the series has done so far. It continues a storyline from another episode. Everything we have said about the show has unfortunately been proven to be true, which is the negative stuff. Lunga accurately predicted what was going to happen with the Sith in this episode. Verbatim. I mean, you can go back and look at our other episodes. The fact that this was so easy to predict, the problem with this series and even this episode as a whole, it really doesn't trust its audience. It's such a dumbed down story that it doesn't even give the audience the the credibility to be like, oh, I believe you can comprehend what's happening. It overspells things out. Did you think Qimir was a Sith? Well, of course he was. Did you think Vernestra was Chimir's master? Of course she was. Like, everything that you thought was going to happen kind of happened. It goes on pace, like in terms of pace, it goes very fast from beat to beat. This was a very fast-paced episode and dense with plot, which is kind of what some of these other episodes should have been, plot-driven and dealing with the characters a little bit more. Yes, the action was fantastic, but as per usual, the shots and settings of the show are really poor and just baffling that this cost $180 million to make. I love seeing that cameo of my boy Plagueis. And yeah, my jaw was dropped. I was like, oh my God, that's one of my favorite Sith of all time. However, that does not justify 8 episodes of a series. This episode, yeah, was a banger. It was an absolute fucking banger. I had a fun time. There was good moments in it, but it's kind of like some of my issues with other Star Wars movies that I won't name, where yeah, they have amazing moments and scenes and actions and stuff like that. Does not make it a good movie. That does not make this a good show. The characters are uninteresting. I wasn't satisfied at the end of the show, and I don't really want more coming after this. So, as per usual, the Acolyte disappoints you and disappointed me, and that's my time, I believe.
I also predicted that it was going to be Osha that killed Soul, and it was going to be Osha that turned, and they were going to swap, which is exactly what fucking happened. Which,
because it was an easy
I want to say,
that's how.
No, but I want to say that's not a bad story element. It'd be a great story element if they executed it right, but they didn't.
Well, and
I loved how they held hands at the end, as if like,
oh yeah,
they're
that
just
was
going to
cute.
be lovers now. That was
going to be cute. That's why you said Raylo 2.0. But I did want to talk about, because there's a lot to get to in this episode specifically, but I did want to talk about these characters first and get to some of the characters of the show. We have the plot of the show, we have the story and our issues with everything, and you know, small things that they go into about the lore. But I wanted to start out with like Osha and Qimir, because this episode picks up exactly where episode 6 left off, which we've been saying this entire series. They do everything in 2 episode blocks. Episodes 7 and 3 tied in together. Episodes 1 and 2 tied in together. Episodes 4 and 5 tied in together. Episodes 6 and 8 tied in. We predicted that 3 or 4 episodes ago, and we've been proven true. But they start off with Osha and Qimir. Osha has that mask on, and she uses like this witch power, transforms Qimir into like seeing stuff kind of like Torben did. But this episode really explored the relationship between these two that started in episode 6, where they have an understanding. How did you guys feel about these two? Because I will say one of the stronger parts of this episode, I do think, was them working together and their dialogue exchanges. I like that in episode 6. I didn't mind it so much in this episode. But what did you guys think about Osha and Qimir and the relationship that was going on? And people were thinking it's a new couple.
Unlike Palpamemes, I don't have a problem with that, especially when we're talking about dark side users, because they're driven by emotion. That's the difference between them and Jedi. They are driven by emotions of passion, hate, rage, you know, all the spectrum that we talk about. So them having that doesn't bother me. It's not the same thing as Raylo. It's a completely different deal. So I'm okay with that. And again, it was great because Manny Jacinto carried her in it. Now, I will say by the last episode, her acting seemed to get better. I don't know, but I don't know again. I don't know if it was the acting or the script didn't call her to show any emotion until fucking now. So I don't know. But Manny kind of carried her. I'm fine with it. I'm okay with it. There's still some confusing elements. Again, it's just like time travel, right? Everything has its own ways of doing time travel, and they're all wrong according to physics. But as long as you're consistent in your universe, that's all that matters, right? Well, be consistent in your universe with this. You have Osha not ascending, doesn't get the tattoo like Mae, but she has the witch power. She puts him in that same kind of space like Torben is. His eyes turn black and all this stuff. And Mae wasn't able to do that, and she's the one who has the damn tattoo. Okay, she's the one who actually ascended and accepted it full-fledged. And if they're both the same person, but who knows? We didn't get that explained to us because we don't understand. How does it tie into their mother who said, "Will you take over for me when I'm dead?" When she is, maybe that's why. I don't know, but you didn't explain it. But they took something that could have been great. This relationship dichotomy between Qimir and Osha could have been really, really good if they focused on that, but they didn't. They just threw it in there and then added it in this like everything else in this last episode, just like Plagueis.
Palpatimes, you share the same sentiment. What do you think about Osha and Qimir?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall I agree with Lunga. Another thing I want to point out is the fact that I don't know who Qimir is as a character, as a story within his story. I don't know what his motivations are. I don't know what his past is. Sure, we can allude to it being with Vernestra, but that doesn't matter because we don't know the implications of what that means, what that did to him as a character, as a person. And because we don't understand that, we can't connect with these two characters. In order to really care for a romance, you need to understand both characters. You need to understand both sides to it. So when they do come together, we're like, okay, that makes sense. That's where Reylo failed, is we understood both characters, and unfortunately the connection just didn't work. Whereas here, it's like we kind of, I guess, understand Osha as a character, even though her motivations flip-flop by the second. But with Qimir, we know literally nothing about him. We don't know who his master is. We don't know where he came from or why he's doing what he's doing. And because of that, it just falls short of what, like Lunga said, could be a pretty good storyline. This point brings up a point I want to bring up. I just so wish that this show was driven by the point of view of Qimir. Looking back, I realized this show could have been a lot better if we were looking at it from Chimir's point of view. That would be a really, really great insight to Sith, some Sith lore like Leslie promised in many, many interviews, and when we get none of that, it also allow this story with Osha and Mae to kind of come to a better fruition rather than just us being like, so that happens, but I don't feel anything with it, right? And I still find it weird that Osha joined him in the first place because I don't know what the motivations are. It was just very lackadaisical. I just didn't like it.
For myself, I will say with Osha and Qimir, I'm kind of with Lunga where like I did like them working as a team. But for me, this would have worked a lot better 4 episodes ago. We don't really believe or care about any of these characters and their motivations, their emotions, and it did not meet its potential as a friendship, frenemies kind of situation. The enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing. But Osha and Qimir outshined in their relationship, the relationship between Mae and Qimir. And I think that's what's so annoying about this series is that when you see these two kind of starting to work together, it's like, okay, well, Osha's always been the stronger character between the twins and a little bit more interesting, in my opinion. This brings that to light, but it doesn't do anything with it that's all that interesting or makes you care. We talk about the motivations and everything. We don't really know what Osha wants, which is a big part of the ending of this, where Mae is telling her, like, what do you want? What do you want? Osha hasn't really told us what she's wanted this entire series. And even at the end, I'm still kind of confused on what she wants out of a relationship with Qimir. Doesn't seem to really trust him or like him, but trust him enough to work with him and maybe train underneath him. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If she's now becoming a Sith acolyte or a Sith apprentice, that's completely fine. But I needed a little bit more motivation and reasoning for her to make this alliance with Qimir. And what is this deal? He told Osha, this is your last chance. Mae took the deal without hesitation. And Osha's like, well, I'm not my sister. I'm better than her. It's like, okay, well, you are. But why are you taking this deal? What was the deal? Are you his apprentice? It doesn't really seem like you even need to be because we see how powerful she is. So I'm very confused with this show and its motivations with something like that. And honestly, I'll yield my time. That's really all I have to say about these two because I don't feel like there was a lot to say in general. Go ahead, Lunga.
So I want to push back on a couple things. I will play devil's advocate here. Okay, I will play to people on Twitter that's like, don't you get it? Because here's the thing. I don't have problems with the toys that they're using. I have the problems with the way they're using them, the way the structure is. Again, I keep talking about the structure. That the major problem here is just the foundation and the walls and the rafters and all of that. The materials are great, but they're putting them together wrong. Okay, the thread with Osha was her entire life's been a lie. That's why it doesn't matter. She's literally now a tabula rasa. She's blank. She's a blank slate because her entire life has been a lie. And that is what they were trying to go with. Now, it would have been great, structure-wise, if her entire life was a lie. Give us more of her life, not 2 episodes multiplied, because it was the same scenes of one day of her life as a child. Okay. That didn't, give us more. Give us more of that. Give us more of, like you said, or Palpatine said with Qimir, perspective. Give us more of the interplay between the two, right? I know it's hard because they were, she wasn't with them until episode 5, right? That's what was episode 5 when they swap places.
At the end of episode 5, during episode 6 is when they really swapped.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Even later, if you did halfway, if you switched them halfway, you know what I mean, and she had more time with him, that would have gestated more. And it would have made more difference. So it's not that the things they're doing, or let's say, that, we don't know enough about her. We do, if they put it in there correctly. You know what I mean? To make that whole my entire life is a lie thing pop. You know what I mean? But they didn't. And it's because they filled it with episode 3 and 7 that were pretty much the same episode. They took up so much time with showing us this one day that we did not I'm not saying we didn't need it at all, but I could literally say between episode 3 and 7, we could have taken maybe 20 minutes out of both of those episodes and it would have summed up everything we needed to know what happened. And then you would have had
that with a lot of the series.
Whole nother episode to do all the stuff that we're talking about. So you see, I'm not slamming the story. And me, it's disappointment because the story, it was there. It was there. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even talking about my anticipations, right? Before I knew what anything was about. I'm talking about as I'm viewing it, as we're going, the story was there. You just had to do something with it. And they couldn't execute with the story they made. That's the fucking problem.
Well, it does go back to execution, and that's the big problem with the series. And like you just said, there is moments where you go, this could work. This is interesting. The vergence of the Force on Bryndock and the fact that these two twins were created from one person. They're really just one person. And even Soul killing their mom and then Osha finding out and getting mad and killing, all that stuff. Very good. It's very good, but it goes always back to execution, like Longa said. And the execution here is very, very piss poor. And that's what breaks my heart. And I think when we look at the episode and the structure of the series, God forbid they do a season 2. But if they did, you gotta throw that book out the door. Because
it's like fan fiction.
1 and 2 should.
But look at this. Ain't it cool? Oh, look at this. Ain't it cool? Oh, look at this. Ain't it cool?
But those things that they're
give me a
showing
story
you
with
that
it,
they think are cool, they do try to give you a story with it, but they fuck up because they're trying to tell so many different stories at one time. And I've said before, I think it was on last week or the week before, about how like the way they've done the story blocks, where episodes 1 and 2 are the same, 3 and 7 are the same, 4 and 5 are the same, and now 6 and 8. You should have mixed a lot of that. That could have been maybe 6 or 5 episodes right there. 1 and 2 definitely.
She was more interested in creating her own lore instead of using the existing lore, and I'm not even talking about the EU and Legends. Just what we know that Disney has, their canon, right? What's considered canon in Disney, which we said is a problem, right? Because they make their books and then they say, fuck that, they don't stick to their own canon, okay? But she was more interested in making, that's why 3 and 7 were so long, because she was more interested in making this lore, and about how, I should do Night Sisters. And Dave Filoni said, no, forget that. You make your own. And all right, so I'm going to take up fucking an hour and a half, almost a movie length, short movie length of time to create this lore that I'm going to do nothing with because they're all dead.
Well, and you bring up a good point, too, about creating her own lore, because Star Wars, since its inception, has had this issue of, okay, well, there's no real established canon other than what we see on the screen, which is the movies. There was nothing before that. There's not a book. There's not a world. George Lucas is not some profound writer like J.R.R. Tolkien, where they just build an encyclopedia of what actually happened. So with this series, what Leslie's doing is introducing you this new witch coven, which you can do a lot of books and stories and spin-off shows and Tales of the Witches, side stuff. You can do that with the Witches Covenant, Bryndock itself. You can do it with these 4 new Jedi that caused all these issues. You can do it for Vernestra. You can do it with the Senator that came in and what's going on there. And then you have Plagueis, and you also have Osha and Qimir, and you have Mae. And what happens with Mae? What happens with Osha? If we don't get a season 2, all this stuff is going to be explored in different media, because we have seen this time and time again.
Too much.
Lucasfilm and Star Wars. Well, not only is it too much, what they end up doing, and that we've hated since Disney has bought Star Wars is they will introduce something, and if it's not good or executed well, they will spend years trying to perfect it and make it make sense. Bad Batch had 3 seasons committed to trying to fix what The Rise of Skywalker did with Palpatine, and it didn't help anything. It made things worse. And I know that they've done this with the prequels. Darth Plagueis, the novel, great fucking novel, but it does a lot to help out what happened in the Phantom Menace, the Rule of Two, and everything. Excuse me. Fill those gaps and everything like that, and try to make it better. And it doesn't always work. Worked with the Clone Wars. I don't think it's going to play out so well with the Acolyte because you're trying to build on quicksand here. Go ahead, Bout Memes.
I just want to bring in while you're talking about like, getting things filled out and like later episodes or blah, blah, blah. And that's what's so frustrating about this is we were told, people would be yelling at everyone who criticized the show that just wait for the next episode, just wait for the story to play out. The story will play out. And now that the story went the way it went, people are now saying, well, there's going to be a season 2, wait for season 2. It's like, no, that's not how you construct a story. And it's so mind-boggling that people just assume we're getting a season 2. Given how this show is performing, I really don't think we're going to get a season 2. I know we'll talk about that later. But it's just so frustrating that we can't get answers. We can't get actual conclusion or actual development. We're just told, and we're supposed to apparently just sit back and assume that at some point down the road, maybe we'll get answers. And because of that, you can't complain or criticize. And that's something I've consistently seen.
But, it's ridiculous. And they do it all the time. And it's like, again, there are some stuff you want to save for a possible season 2, right? Of course.
And I'm not saying everything needs to be answered, right? Mystery is still good in some aspects.
But you have to tie up plot arcs that you have for the season. You still have to make the season have an arc. Okay? And Osha's was a straight line and then went like this. Okay? Mae's was a straight line down here, and then I don't know if this is getting ahead of myself again, or if I'm doing the Palpable memes here. We have to erase your memory because they'll use you to find me. How about this? Just go and don't tell me where you're going. What the fuck?
And again, it brings up to like the whole.
It's a big fucking galaxy. They couldn't find Luke without a map.
I understand that like mind wipes and stuff were a thing that exists, but the fact that all it took is Qimir, like 3 seconds of that.
Let's talk about that one later, though. That's a bigger one.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But so it's clearly all disappointed with the characters and the story and the plot and everything like that. And we're saying like the story is solid, but one nitpick I do want to bring up is what we talked about is that Bazil character.
Jesus fucking Christ.
What happened with that? Like, we don't need timers for this. This is
Two
a quick
things.
little sidestep. But, like, what the fuck was he doing there? They never talked about that.
We saw him when Mae was roaming around the ship chasing her, right? And we're like, okay, are they building to something up here? Does he know something no one else does? You know what? He's chasing her around. He literally ankle bites her, okay, and kicks her. And he's like going after her leg. And now all of a sudden, he's on her side. I don't know what that. He decides to tear up the ship when Soul's trying to go. Now Soul did target, so maybe he was trying to save her from being killed. But I don't think Soul was. I mean, was he really gonna fire at her, blow up the ship? I don't. He literally talked about how he had to bring her there because he had to prove that the virgins existed. Killing her is not going to do that. I've never seen a toggle switch fire weapons on the Star Wars ship, so I don't know if that was the case. Could have been a tractor beam. I know those old Jedi starships did have tractor beams. So it could have been that. But him doing that made no sense. It made no sense on its face value because they didn't tell us why he did it or show us why he did it. Then you followed up with just the last episode. He was chasing her around like she's the enemy, and he grabbed her by the leg. What is this guy's deal?
Yeah, I want to bring up the fact that we know someone can speak to Bazil. We know Yord knows how to speak to Bazil, or whatever the fuck his name is. So there's a few problems here. Obviously, the problem of him deciding to take down the ship for no reason at all. That's, again, the plot is driven by just things happening, no reason why. But also, Bazil saw everything. He saw everything. So if you need someone to talk about what happened, it's that dude. Why? And also, why did Soul need to get Osha to prove there were twins when they did testing on both the twins?
Not the twins.
Why do you now need both of them?
He needed both of them to show that the virgins existed. He needed both of them.
They did the
which
blood
they didn't
testing.
Explain it why. Yeah, the blood testing showed that they're the same person, and I don't know.
They did, but they did. In the charting, they read that this isn't just the same DNA; it's the same, and then they said some other scientific term, which is like okay, that proves
symbiote.
Yeah, so that proves that data proves, but Bazil has seen everything. He's your answer to everything. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but he's confused. He doesn't know what he.
He
R2D2 is literally.
R2's seen everything. Doesn't tell anybody a fucking thing. Same thing with Bazil.
Well, they wiped his mind.
No, that's the thing. R2's never had his mind wiped. That's why he is what he is. 3PO's the one that's always had his mind wiped. Doesn't know what the fuck is going on.
3PO's an idiot, so he deserves it.
Yeah, but we've always just had these weird inconsistencies with Star Wars, and it annoys me that when they double down on these things and say, "Oh, it's fine," like I've seen a stance taken by people who are trying to defend the show and be like, "Well, you guys didn't really know that this was a young adult story, young adult kind of novel turned into a story." It's like, okay, so it's back to the George Lucas, like, "Oh, the acting's bad in the prequels because it was supposed to be bad. It's the '30s acting." It's like, no, you're not going to tell me that, bro. I'm sorry, that's not that excuse doesn't work. The explanations in this show and everything, it's not bad. It's just not meant to be good like normal shows. It's a young adult show, so it's fine that it's bad. It's like, no, it's not fine at all. I'm very disappointed with this show. And I want to get to some of the smaller topics before we get into the bigger ones, especially Darth Plagueis and everything like that. Vernestra has taken up a good chunk of this show and its plot and the story, and mainly on the side of the Jedi. And the actress is horrible. The costume is horrible. But they finally brought in that one actor that everybody thought was going to be like Darth Tenebris. And he was the senator that's moving against the Jedi and everything like that.
Martian Manhunter.
Yeah. So what did you guys think about
Supergirl,
this whole arc with Vernestra over the course of this series? And after we talk about her and the Senate and even what she said to the Senate and lied, we can talk about her and Qimir, because it's a bigger part of it too. But what did you guys think about her kind of lying and everything? There was a lot to unpack with her in this episode more than any other episode.
Yeah. I mean, it was... again, if the rest of the series wasn't so shitty, this would have been fine, because her threads, her involvement is good for that season 2 storyline, right? You have the stuff with her going on in the background and how she's involved. She wasn't part of that group that went to Brendok, right? But she's connected to Qimir, and she didn't tell anyone about it. She has her own secrets that she's keeping. And they basically, it's that meeting was kind of funny, because she was talking about how it was a cover up and it's horrible. So I'm now creating another cover up to cover up while she's telling the story, which again does kind of play into how this snowballs, right? Because they keep trying to cover things up. I did like the interplay with the senator. The actor's a really good actor to begin with. I did enjoy him. He's as bad as his CW is. I enjoyed him in the CW.
He carried that scene. He carried that.
Yeah. So he was very well. And I know people hate the whole politics thing in the prequels. This was good. I thought it was done well. It was done better than the politics we see in Mando with the New Republic. You know what I mean? So it was handled well, and I thought that was good. But the Vernestra thing would have been better if all the other stuff, if the stuff for this season, the stuff you gave us and the questions you gave us were tied up in a nice, neat little bow by the time we got to the end. You know what I mean? And then the Vernestra stuff can carry on into season 2. You know what I mean? But it didn't. The Qimir Osha relationship can carry on into season 2 as long as you tied up all this other shit, how they were made, the virgins. The only person's arc that they completed was Soul's. Soul's arc actually made sense, and the actor was spectacular. He was the only solid thing from start to end with this show. But his arc was actually great. But she dropped the ball on the rest. So, I mean, the actress for Vernestra, we've talked about this a bunch of times, horrible. But, and it's her wife, and I didn't know that until afterwards, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think doing it, having your wife play this big Jedi figure in this episode or in this series was really that great of an idea. But Palpatine's, what do you think about Vernestra and the Jedi Order that she's kind of running? She's like the vice president of the Jedi, it seems like.
I think it's... I don't know where to start. I guess my starting point for this would just be, the problem is the foundation for what's going on with Vernestra and the Senate and stuff is a broken foundation, because again, we talked about this last time. What the Jedi did was not wrong, and that's what's so annoying about this. Is it's same thing with Soul's death. Again, Soul was not in the wrong for what he did, and so the cover up for the cover up for the cover up, it just makes the whole Jedi Order look like complete corruption, and that's really frustrating to me because and people will be like, well, what about you must not understand the prequel trilogy. No, I understand the prequel trilogy very fine. It's actually a story about how even a top level community can get taken down by ignorance. That doesn't mean that community was corrupted, and that's what they've made the Jedi Order here is corrupted, and I hate that so much. I'm kind of on the opposite of Lunga. I didn't like the Senate stuff. I thought the monologue he gave was horrible. It's too on the nose. Where he's like, it's only a matter of time before one snaps and ends the order or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember the prequel trilogy. Yeah, okay. And they did that again. They did that with the witches in episode, whatever the witch episode, the second witch episode, episode 7. It's just, it's not written that well. I think it would have been better if the Senate scenes have been spaced out, because we kind of just got a whole bunch of stuff in this one little 2-minute scene. If this was spaced out throughout the series, or if the series was longer, I think it would have had a better impact overall. I like the actor, but Vernestra and her actions, not a fan.
I will say this. They oh my god, I just lost the thread of what I was going to say now. It'll come back to me. Go ahead.
Well, for me with Vernestra, what kind of kills me is it feels like the beginning of a plot to an actual story. Like Lunga kind of said it in his 2 minutes of like, they want to follow this up with the season 2. This is the beginning of like a plot for like season 2 and everything to play it out. And they constantly tease that Vernestra knows a lot more than she leads on in the series. She say things like tipping the scales. So she knows, maybe not that it's the Sith, but there's somebody dark side adjacent, somebody evil, somebody bad, the bad guy at least, that is working out there trying to tip the scales against the Jedi. She doesn't tell anybody about this. She doesn't tell the audience about this. And what happens throughout this series is she just basically learns everything that we are learning as an audience member. She is... It would be funnier or even better if she was the lead of the series and was learning this stuff along with us instead of learning it after we learned everything. Because she learns about everything that happened with the Jedi on Bryndock and what happened. She learns that her former apprentice, assumingly, Qimir, is alive and everything, and that he's dealing with a lot of this shit. But there's no depth to the story arc because we don't really know what she knows. And so it's the beginning of a plot that's meant to be followed up with a season 2. I didn't mind the stuff with the senator all that much. I thought he was a good actor, and I do like the idea that there are some people who don't view the Jedi. The problem is the constant foreshadowing. It's that everyone who doesn't like the Jedi is like, you guys are gonna fall. One day something's gonna happen. You're all gonna die. It's like Palpatine said. Yeah, I fucking remember the prequels. Okay, you don't have to keep mentioning Order 66. It was surprising because you didn't see it coming. If everyone and their mother sees it coming, then it doesn't have the same impact, and it keeps getting lessened and lessened. I don't like the actress for Vernestra at all. I think she is absolutely abysmal, and I think the makeup is also horrific. So I really don't want more of her in the following seasons, if there is any. And I kind of don't think we will, but because she's the wife of Leslie, come on, she's not going nowhere.
I remember what I was going to say too. Your timer's up.
Oh, I remember.
I remember. And we admittedly, this is still a horrible way to do it because not enough people pay attention to it. And one thing people don't like is have to read books to understand what you're watching, right? No one does more. It's nice ancillary material, but you don't want to have to read them to know what's happening here. There's a stark contrast, and only will know because he did read these with me. There's a stark contrast between the Jedis of the High Republic and their relationship with the Republic to the Jedis we see here. Here it's starting to fall apart. It's starting to degrade. It's starting to disintegrate. During the High Republic, the Jedi were not that secretive. They were very open with a lot of things, and they worked very well with the Republic and hand in hand. You know what I mean? It was a strong friendship with the Chancellor, even. So this is showing how, between that time in the High Republic novels we had, and to hear how things have degraded over the, we know it's just 100 years before, our main storylines. The High Republic, I think it's like 100 to 200 years after the High Republic, I believe, or something like that.
I think it's
the
like
novels.
I think it's like 100 years before. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah, it's 100 years
Acolyte.
before. Yeah, the High Republic is like 100 years before the Acolyte. I don't think we got a direct line on that one yet. We'd have to look it up. We know they tell us how long it's 100 years before the
Phantom
prequels
Menace,
or whatever.
Yeah.
The Phantom Menace. Yeah, we know that. But yeah, it's either like 100, 200 years after the books. So, and it shows the degradation of what happens and how they've gone from that to this, and there could be numerous reasons because there's a lot of time on why that happened. But that's still a horrible way to do it because not a lot of people read those books, and not a lot of people who watch this show, especially general audiences, are going to have read those books to understand that. So it does appear like that because of it. And yeah, it can be a little on the nose when they're saying, you remember prequels? Remember? Yeah, this is what's going to happen. I get it.
But
I can understand why people feel that way.
I like what you're saying about how, the High Republic was a little different and kind of showing the Jedi becoming more secretive. The problem is, especially, I hate to bring up Andor, but when you have it, it's such a good point of things. Andor did a great job of really showing you how the Empire was slowly just taking control of everything, how the machine was running. When you see the Empire having these meetings and people talking about what they're going to do to rule things, and you have it was like a corporation, and you had the guy at the top be like, what do we really do here and everything, and people give their takes, and he's like, no, that's not what we do. This is what we do. You kind of needed that in this show, where it really shows you how things work instead of giving you these broad strokes of, oh, well, the Jedi are kind of dumb and evil. It's like, okay, I could believe that if you spelled it out for me. And or in this show, when he's like, you just need to act like you're one of them. They can't fathom that you would do something like this, like just walk into the facility and steal something, because who would do that? Him saying that, him doing stuff like that, having that one character explain how everything works gives this story a lot of depth. It gives the Empire a lot of depth where you understand how they work and then you see how they work. You don't get that at all in this show. In this show, it's almost like the prequels where there's really only one person doing anything for the Jedi, and that's Vernestra. She's like the big head honcho. So everything's kind of her fault, but also Sol and then Master and Dara and everybody else is like, it's constant. I think I'm losing my train of thought with it, but I feel like they're always trying to give you this image of the Jedi doing dumb things and not really giving you a lot of context or reason to it. Whereas
because here's the thing,
we don't think Sol is all that bad because we've seen the whole thing. We're like, well, wait, why are you painting the Jedi to be bad when Sol?
We've talked about this. Okay, we've talked about this before many times, and Feltman's hinted on here. If they did a show a little bit more, not entirely, but a little bit more from the perspective of the Sith, okay? The Sith. Qimir could be, the apprentice right now, let's say, okay? And you show how the Jedi aren't dumb, but they're naive and they're falling for these machinations that the Sith are putting them in these predicaments. And they don't even realize it's the Sith, which is the whole clouded and Yoda not realizing what's going on even, and it's more about the dark side rising and clouding their view of the Force, rather than being dumb. But it's just that little bit of context that would change it all, even if they responded and acted the same way.
I think you're absolutely right. I brought it up last week. I love what they said in the Revenge of the Sith novel of Yoda realizing, I lost this fight before I was even born. The Sith are not going to just attack us like they did in a big army where we got to fight saber versus saber. They're doing everything differently now. And even if I kill this Sith because of the perception of the Jedi to the galaxy and what just happened and all this tragedy, it's fucking over, bro. A lot of nuance to that. You don't get that at all in this show. But staying on Vernestra and everything, there's a clear relationship between her and Qimir. Palpatine, I'll let you start this off. What do you think's going on with that? I mean, obviously, because the show is very bad at writing, she's obvious. His former master. Yeah. But what do you think happened? And how long has this guy been alive? Is he a Sith, really?
How about I'll pitch in something to the Lucasfilm meeting team, right? How about instead of having 2 episodes of flashbacks where they're pretty much the same thing, how about we have the other half of that flashback, young Vernestra with her purple hair, which I wish she still had, and young Qimir training, and then we kind of see a little bit of what happened, and then maybe we see Plagueis pick him up at some point, and you kind of follow that storyline. Why the two? Cut in.
No, he
That-
didn't want a timer for that.
No. Anyways, wow, I lost my thought. Yeah, I think a flashback where we actually saw that would be nice, but obviously, yeah, she was his master. She felt him when he had his helmet off, and he felt her. And again, obviously, this is to portray something in season 2. But again, like everything else in this show, it's so surface level that I can't get into it at all. I mean, there's not a whole lot else to say about that. I'm gonna be real. I think I'm gonna yield my 1 minute.
Season 2. That shit you're gonna see is season 2.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what it is. But yeah, no. I don't think we need to see that now. Okay, but no, she said he was my apprentice. She said it in this last episode. We got it pretty much. When he said my master, abandoned me, and then and the other thing you were bringing up before about the tipping of the scales. All these things she's talking about, it's not Sith in her mind. It's my apprentice who fell. She's thinking about Qimir. Everything is a Qimir in her head. That's what it is. So all the things when she talked about tipping, it's probably things he's said when he fell out of her favor and did his fall. Okay. She thinks he is the evil. It's all him. She's not even thinking broader that it has to do with the Sith, because again, the Sith have been extinct for 1,000 years. This is just my apprentice who's dabbling in the dark side. And he's fucking shit up for us. And that's plausible, right? You wouldn't jump. You go to Occam's Razor, you wouldn't jump to the Sith are back. You would jump to, that is my apprentice. I knew what happened with him. I didn't tell anyone about it. I whipped him in the back like it was an episode of fucking Roots, and now he's a dark side user and killing Jedi, or having people kill Jedi. So that's plausible, and that's fine. But again, it's hard to say they should have did it earlier, because we didn't find out about Qimir. Well, properly find out about Qimir until later, right? We all knew at the beginning. Yep, he's the one. it's him. But I think, to be honest with you, it would have been better if they kept that a little bit more vague, to save that for later, instead of making it a huge storyline now. You know what I mean? We get the whole thing with Chimir's really old, and we didn't get no answer to that. How long ago was she? But yeah, so all her thoughts are revolving that all this is because of him, and she's feeling guilt because of it. So that, I think, is the thing, and I think it was okay if all the other shit wasn't as bad.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, and I think exploring Vernestra and Qimir would have been a good idea for this season. Maybe having a little bit, not a flashback episode, but just context to it and understanding like what really happened between these two. But I agree with Lunga. I think she just thinks that Qimir is the reason all this is happening. It's kind of like Qui-Gon's Jedi Padawan who fell to the dark side. He didn't become a Sith. He just became a dark side user that they had to defeat. And those dark side users sometimes do want to bring down the entire Jedi Order, and that clearly is Qimir. He says before he wants to practice his Force abilities and all that stuff and his power as he pleases, which is clearly not Jedi adjacent. And he used to be a Jedi, but it is weird too that Osha says she's never heard of him. Qimir doesn't seem to be known by Yord or Soul, because when they see him again in the forest, they're like, "Oh, I recognize you." But we think it's because they talked to him like a couple episodes before in episode 2. But then Soul also says he senses something familiar. So he didn't sense anything when he first met Qimir, so maybe he's already seen Qimir before. There's a lot of like confusing things that I know they're going to want to explore later on, but they're like the small, interesting things that they haven't really made interesting yet. Where it's like, oh, okay, like I guess I wonder what happens there because you're making me wonder, but I'm not really interested in Vernestra. I'm interested in Qimir, but you want me to be interested in Mae and Osha. And so you're exploring like the wrong things, and it's just the show is all over the place with its plot points and the way it follows through on some of these storylines. And I don't think the Vernestra one and Qimir is very strong. But I do think it is going to play in a lot more if they follow the story up. And out of all the Jedi, she might be the first one to discover that the Sith have been alive for a while and everything, and she'll probably end up dying or something like that. Not confident, but whatever. I don't know. Tired of this wife lady. and her bad fucking acting and awful fucking makeup. Oh my god, she looks horrible. Um, y'all want to move into the fun stuff now, the nitty gritty, or what fun we did find in this. Soul and Qimir. What'd you guys think about that duel? Some say it was supposed to be better than Duel of the Fates.
It was different than Duel of Fates. It was very Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which I'm not opposed to. I think that's pretty cool. I don't mind that kind of choreography in movies. I thought it was kind of brilliant in a lot of the newer kind of kung fu movies that they made. So I thought the choreography was really great. I thought the duel was great, and he, he's kind of, because Ahsoka kind of has I keep forgetting the names of there's the katana and the wakasashi. Is that what the shorter blade is called? I think.
Shoto blade.
Yeah. That's like what hers are, but his was even shorter. Like, because there's three. There's that, and there's like a dagger, like even smaller one that they can carry. So he seems like that one, which is part of it. That was kind of cool to see. It's kind of instead of seeing Darth Maul with the double sided one, it was kind of when he's got the two. That was kind of cool. So I mean, I thought the fight was good. Again, just like the episode where they had the battle with them, that was great. Just like the Kelnaka one, with fighting Torben and him, it was great. Does it fix the show? No. It's it's fireworks, and it's not the 4th of July. It's fireworks, and it's fucking, January 12th or something in Chicago. It doesn't really, do much for me. But yeah, again, it was fine, but it's like, if I need action scenes to make a show good, there's a fundamental problem with the show. The action scenes should be the cherry on top of a good show. It's like, oh my god, the show's good. And then you see the action scenes. Holy fuck! That is what it's supposed to do. It's not supposed to draw you back into an otherwise dreary, boring, scatterbrained ADHD plot.
Yeah, I'm surprised you like the Crouching Tiger stuff, honestly. Palpatine, do you mind if I go first with these 2 minutes? Because I'm going to lose my train of thought here with Lunga.
I guess go ahead.
On the Crouching Tiger.
Yeah, whatever.
I didn't like it. I wanted to rebuke a little bit. I honestly, some of the choreography was fine. I didn't like the kung fu stuff. The slow motion, he like triple kicks him on the chest in the air thing, and it wasn't. It sometimes the stuff, and I think it's because of the way the show is shot and seeing how Star Wars has been filmed before, stuff like that to me is not cringe but corny. Like, where I'm like, oh, this is kind of corny now. The slow motion of them jumping down from the thing. Like, yes, I get the Jedi and they can do this stuff, but sometimes, and I always bring up the realism of Star Wars, some of the original trilogy movies, and even they tried to do with the prequels, did have a kind of realism feel to it, where you're not seeing Vader float down all slowly in slow motion. I didn't like it in The Last Jedi. I really didn't like it all that much in this. I did respect, though, the way they conducted the fight, how there actually was internalization of character between both of these people, because Soul is battling his darkness while fighting Qimir, and Qimir knows the truth about Soul. But Soul, throughout the entire fight, is trying to be calm, collected, and when he ends up winning. Like, I do like the fact that Soul wins. It shows that Soul is a good Jedi, and beats Qimir, and could have taken his life if he really wanted to, but decided not to. And he almost does like the Japanese samurai stuff and some of his stances and the quick slash at the end. Stuff like that was pretty cool and was epic. But I do think the editing, the pacing, and the shot selection, even the sets with this stuff like that, because it looks poor to me and is executed poorly, it brings down the impact of a duel like this a lot. But that's all I had to say. Palpmemes, please, sir.
Before you go, I'll just one little quick thing. It wasn't executed poorly. It's just not your jam, and that's okay. I get it.
No, I like kung fu movies. Kung fu movies don't bother me at all. The way they're shot and film, but there's a difference even between like cheaper ones like the Ip Man series and everything. I love those. I love the ways those are shot.
Yeah, but you like them where they belong. You said you just don't like it in Star Wars. You think you're like, oh, you don't need Darth Vader coming down slow. Listen, man, I think when he was fighting Obi-Wan in A New Hope, I think it would have been better if it wasn't that old samurai fucking kendo stick thing. Bonk, bonk, bonk.
It was just the 70s, though, man. It was the 70s.
Doesn't matter.
That's my excuse for that. Palpmemes, what's your take on this duel?
I am right in between you guys. I think the only slow mo part I actually didn't like was when they're the little stunt rope thing where they're flying out of the building and it kind of like they're falling and then they like kind of slowly make their way.
Mhm.
Oh, that was corny. The biggest problem I have with this fight is they simply haven't done the legwork to make a fight have payoff. Right? Soul is probably the most engaging person in the show, but it's simply because of the actor, not because of the writing. Qimir, while he looks cool and I like him just from a subjective point of view, I enjoy watching him on screen. I don't even know who he is as a character. I knew nothing about him. So when these two characters that I don't care for because the show hasn't given me a reason to care for, when they're fighting, I don't feel the stakes. I don't really feel the what I should feel during a fight, like say Anakin versus Obi-Wan, Revenge of the Sith. Even like Rey versus Kylo Ren in the Death Star, there was good build up to that point. And there was good payoff. Whereas this, I was like, okay, but in terms of choreography and stuff, I've given that show praise this entire time. I've thoroughly enjoyed the choreography and stunt work in the show. I genuinely believe it's the best we've gotten since the Disney buyout of Star Wars. And the team that's doing the stunts, I hope they continue to work on future Star Wars projects because they're doing a really, really good job. I like the fast pace of the lightsaber battles. I like the kung fu aspect of it. I like the sort of mirroring that was going on between Osha and Mae and Qimir and Soul. Those things are all great, but again, it's held back by, as we keep saying throughout this entire Chatooine banger of a show, it's just held back by the lack of a good story. But one thing I do want to kind of criticize, and this is a nitpick, and I fully acknowledge it's a nitpick, is I hate the way the lightsabers look in this, especially when the lightsaber bleeding scene happens, but I know we'll get into that later. I hate the way they look. The sequel trilogy had the best, in my opinion, looking lightsabers. In this, it genuinely looks like my NeoPixel lightsaber that would use outside, and I genuinely believe that's how they did it. I genuinely think there's no VFX in a lot of these parts because they have the NeoPixel effect. And I just think it looks kind of cheap, but that's a subjective thing.
It is very.
I actually do agree. I don't like the way
crazy.
the lightsabers look.
Y'all crazy.
crazy. I think the prequels did them solid. Of course, the originals are made during a different time, but they looked good. Sequels were fine, I guess.
One
I
pushback.
like that they had a lot of lighting to them.
You keep saying, Peltmemes, that I don't know anything about Qimir. What we need to know about him, they did give us. Okay, we know that his master abandoned him, and we know we find out obviously it's Vernestra. We know that he felt this abandonment because of it. We know he turned to this partially because of that, because obviously he was falling before that. We also know that Soul's reason is not only his involvement with Mae, but did you just forget hasn't even been 24 hours since he slaughtered everyone that he knows, all his friends. He just watched him slaughter all of them in cold blood. So that is his motivation. That's why he's fighting him.
Attachment is forbidden.
that is
I totally
why.
Understand that. It's very fair.
Yeah. And again, so yeah, for Qimir, we know we need to know. The abandonment is all we need to know, to be honest with you. That's his link to Osha. I wanted to bring this up earlier when we were talking about it. I forgot. It was one of the things I forgot I lost the thread of thought. That he sees Osha and Mae, but it became more Osha than Mae, especially when he realized what was going on with her, a kindred spirit, that she was also deceived and in a way abandoned by her master with Soul. And he lied to her and I bet you there's going to be threads, and this may be one of the things you saying that we need to notice, that he probably felt he was lied to by Vernestra and he wasn't told things by Vernestra, and so he probably sees this kindred spirit with Osha the way she was with Soul. So I think that's where that connection comes in, and I'm not going to push on that too much because that does make sense to me. I'm not going to be the whole don't you get it, dummy?
Point. I guess I was I was wrong. I do understand that. I guess as characters, I just can't connect with them very well. But also, what a coincidence that all four of these people realized that, hey, we're all four going to the same planet, the same location. Can we explain how that happened? How did they all know that everyone's going to
the will of the Force?
I know it's silly, but it's a little. They happen. I was like, how does
just
Soul
like everything
know
happens
in
Star Wars? It's always the will of the Force.
But it was a
in
little.
In Rebels, they did well. In this show, they explained it by Osha seeing that they were going to be on Bryndock, and I do kind of like the excuse me, is when she sees the future is. She has like a premonition of the future. She's like, oh, Mae's gonna kill Soul, but
Saw
without
herself.
a weapon or something like that. And yeah, she saw herself because they're the same person and she's a twin and all that crap. But anywho, I didn't mind her finding out that they were on Bryndock and then having to use Chimir's ship to get her there, because she can't fly or pilot either. And she said that. And there's another thing that I thought was kind of cool. It's like, oh, they're not just making her like an. I think they're trying to avoid the Mary Sue thing with Mae and Osha that they got with Bray, and I think they've actually accomplished that. You can't not call
because
them
as we see, Osha is better with the Force than Mae is, and
which
and
always
Mae
has
is
been
better
the opposite,
as
where
a pilot.
Mae was always. Yeah, Mae was
Well,
always the
they're the
better
same
one.
person. Don't you see that it seems like every time one's deficient in something, the other is proficient in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're doing with it because they're the same person. And if you're noticing, the light and dark swing with them is like that. When one goes up, the other goes down, and because they're the same person, they're out of balance because they're separated.
And
that's
all
an
that
interesting
is cool,
idea.
and yeah, it's very interesting. I would love it to be a little executed a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe if they
better.
showed us a little bit of that context, maybe in some way,
and hired
not an exposition dump. I'm not saying an exposition dump or an internal monologue or anything.
Oh,
you could do it with certain ways.
I love, just real quick, I just love how we were about to find that out at the beginning of the episode. But as he was about to tell her, he goes, bzzz.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. I rolled my eyes so hard. I was like, come on, dude. You've been doing this the entire... That's a big problem. So, I have to say,
they did all that.
The climax of these characters.
They did all that like they were going to reveal something. And then he just says what we already know.
That's the thing. That's the thing is they build up this stuff and it's just the poor execution of it. It's the poor writing and planning of like this climax to these characters. And it's honestly, like, I will give the show credit. Osha killing Soul and force choking him, bleeding her kyber crystal, finding out that, he killed her mom and kills him. That works. That works as a fucking Sith origin story. That works. It all worked. You did call it because the show was so easy to fucking predict. It's the problem. So you give us these threads. You remember thread? No, the force of the thread. Power 1, power 2, power many. Fucking banger series.
And that was the song that played in the end credits. So I'll take the pop song over what happened in this episode. Just saying.
No, I refuse to have pop song in the fucking.
It's both bad. They're both bad.
It's awful. But what I was saying is that the characters and the story arcs that these four all had at the very end, I actually liked. I thought the scene was powerful. I thought what they were trying to do made sense and works as a good idea. Executed just kind of poorly. And with that, it's not even the writing or anything. It's not even her killing Soul. All that I enjoyed. But to me, it's also the look of it. It's the acting of, I don't find
that there was nothing out of her. There was nothing out of her for 7 episodes. And we get it all in this. And
they build up to this.
That's why.
And if this had been kind of the mid-series or season finale or something like that, and they keep building after this, maybe it would have a little bit more of an impact. But what carried this was what they had been building up. But the problem is what they've been building up for 7 episodes. So it loses its steam. You ever see a video game get over market, and you at the end of it, you're like, I don't even want to play this. I've seen it too many times. Same with movies.
One of the greatest movies of all time, 7. Okay, you know movie I'm talking about, obviously, right? Okay, can you imagine if Brad Pitt the entire movie was saying, "What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box?" For the whole movie,
see it, you're like, oh, it's a big reveal, but I mean, God, I'm just happy to get it the fuck out of the way, Like, Jesus Christ. Like, one of the greatest things that, like, Naruto did as a series is they slowly introduced the big bad, this guy named Madara. And just,
oh my God, Only's making an anime reference?
Yeah, bro. I love Naruto. That was my shit before anime was popular. I remember. But what they did with that series was slowly just kind of talk a little bit about the ninja history of Madara Uchiha. And so by the time he's like really starting to make his name known, like he comes back, and it's a huge deal because they took so much fucking time to build on that. They spend so much time building on the same shit in the show with the foundation that's already pretty weak, with characters that don't have a lot of depth to them in a confusing storyline. that by the time they have this emotional, powerful moment that is the climax of everything, while in some ways it's satisfying, it's ultimately disappointing because it's everything you thought it was, but just kind of worse, honestly.
It's everything
but
you
what
thought
did
it
you
was
guys-
without the other stuff that we wanted to know that would have made it cooler.
Exactly. Everything you wanted to know, you didn't even get to find out, truthfully. We got a super chat from our member, Grievous Reborn. You remember Plagueis? Because I member. And I love to member. Do you guys want to... Do you want to
go
get
into
to
that topic
him
now?
Do you guys want to get to him now?
I
or
think
later?
Grievous
Yeah,
Reborn
sure, why not?
earned it. So let's
This is
do
a
it.
great
Yeah.
segue. All right.
You just paid for the next
fucking
topic,
Plagueis.
Grievous. There you go.
Hey, that's a good idea. You guys want to pay for a topic change? Just let us know. Got to be show adjacent, of course. Plagueis was there for what, 2 seconds? Longa said many episodes ago. Hey, you're probably only going to get a quick little look at the Sith and not anything. And I will give you props, Longa. Me and Palpatine were on the phone last night, and we literally said Longa was right. Longa was right.
Oh, we were
How do you
pissed.
feel?
We were
You remember
pissed.
being right, Lunga? Do you remember? 'Cause we remember.
Well, listen, there was a hashtag I was doing on Twitter for the last couple of years. Anytime I get argued with people, hashtag Lunga was right. That's
Let it
that's
be
what I do.
known that Lunga was
I mean,
right.
listen, I've had a lot of theories and predictions that have been always wrong. A lot of them have been wrong over and over and over again so many times. But when I am right, of course, just like anyone else is going to do, it's going to make it sound like you're always right. But yeah, it was 2 seconds. It was 2 seconds of Plagueis. And again, that in of itself isn't a problem if there was more Sith stuff in this. Okay? Like, I'm not even complaining about the age problem and, he should only be a baby at this point. Well, they shifted the timeline. He's older. Tenebris was during the High Republic, maybe during the novels. That's when Tenebris was around. Okay. So they shifted a little bit. That's not a big deal to me. Making him a little bit older, I think actually adds more to him if he's been that long lived. You know what I mean? And he's been doing stuff for so long before we finally get to Sidious. Okay. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But there was no Sith stuff in here. And again, we can't go by novels because they're not canon, right? But this man was Hugo Damask. And even if you don't go with exactly what happens in the novel, Palpatine, who he is, which is canon movies, learned from him how to do that. Because he was a mover and a shaker in the Republic. The banking clans of this, he did the whole thing hiding in plain sight thing. He was there. He was making the connections, which is why Sidious got up to where he did. He's not Pennywise the clown creeping around in the sewers. It's like, what? You're trying to make him scary? Dude, the fact that this fucking big-ass headed fucking moon who talks like this, who's this, in the banking clan and does all these maneuvers and very casually decides people should die or live, that's terrifying. You don't need to make him this horror movie looking kind of fucking thing. And why is he like some kind of fucking a sexual assault creeper hiding in a fucking cave? He's like fucking Gollum. What has he been doing back there, eating fish the whole fucking square like it wriggling? What has he been fucking doing in this cave? Where has he been? By the way, where has he been hiding this whole time? He's just been creeping around this fucking cave. On the oh god, the Planet Escape me. We said what planet it is. Baldemnik, thank you. And it's like, so he's I guess spying on his apprentice makes sense. That kind of tracks, you know what I mean? But just the execution again. Those 2 seconds could have been the best 2 seconds ever if it was executed right. Okay? Like, example, ending it with Qimir doing something, coming back to the cave, Osha's outside or something, right? And he comes back to the cave to do something, and then you see him step out of the shadows, and he's like, found yourself an apprentice, have you?
Oh my god.
Oh my god! Just that! Okay? That would have been, and it's still only 2 seconds, right? And like one line, okay? But that would have made a huge fucking deal. And that's with this episode, like, they're not changing anything about the episode or the series, which still sucked, right? That, at least I could have went, like what I said last week, I go, I'm going to probably love this, and it's still going to piss me off because the series sucked as a whole.
Yeah.
That would have been fucking spectacular. But no, you made him Pennywise the fucking clown like he's about to eat some kids, creeping around a corner. It was just fucking really weird.
Pal Memes, I'm gonna let you. This is gonna take me a second to get through, so I'm gonna let you go, sir, because I'm gonna have a lot to say.
It's crazy that we all three have so much to say for something that was 2 seconds. You might want to put my timer up, Lunga. My initial reaction, I saw the stupid hands, and then I was like, "Oh my gosh, they're doing it!" And then I saw him kind of creep out, like Pennywise, like Lunga said. And then I saw him, and it was more shock value, but not shock value in the sense of, "Oh shit, it's Plagueis." Okay, no, it was shock value in this. Yeah, this is Lunga's, impersonating right now. It was shock value, and why does he look like that? Lunga already ran through it. He go to mask. The mask's holdings. He's not some freaking demonic looking being, right? It just, and again, you can say, well, that's not canon. Okay, then don't even bring him in at this point because it just doesn't matter anymore. This whole thing, honestly, it felt like a slap in the face because I saw it, and then whenever it cut to the next scene 3 seconds later, I knew exactly. I knew. I was on Lunga's side. I was like, we're never seeing this guy again. And this scene was simply put there to try and get those oohs and ahs from the fandom. And God
you remember?
I remember.
You remember the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wide?
For people who, I'm sure the Chatooine members remember that the Darth Plagueis novel is my favorite Star Wars novel and one of my favorite novels just in general. It's a just brilliant mastermind of a story, and I've been saying for so long now that I would love to see it being adapted into a 12-episode Disney Plus series directed by someone, the likes of Andor, like Tony Gilroy. The fact that they're already messing things up just simply by the way he looks and his acting, it terrifies me. And I would understand how a lot of the TLJ haters feel with how Luke was. Or I should say more of those who, love the Heir to the Empire trilogy, and then we got the sequel trilogy. It would kind of be my, quote unquote connection to that. But it felt like a slap in the face because it was there and he was disappeared. It didn't change anything. It didn't add anything to the story. It did nothing. It was really frustrating. I would have rather him just not be there.
And I will say just real quick before Only goes into his 5-hour long rant about Plagueis is one of his favorite characters. Bane, I think, is the only other one that he would like more.
Oh yeah, I love Bane. Love some fucking Bane.
I don't. Again, it was in shadow, so we didn't see everything. But I don't think the look was bad. I think he looked okay. The moon makeup and the way they made him look, I think, was okay. We need to see it in full light, but I think that looked all right. I mean, it's not as bad as the fucking Inquisitor in Ahsoka. You know what I mean? So I mean, he looked okay. It was the mannerisms, the way, because he wasn't this creepy little fucking like people don't know who the Moon are. They're all over the fucking galaxy. They're a banking clan. People deal with the Moon all the fucking time. They're there. So make him that way. And my thing is because he's the Sith master, so they wanted to make him creepy because he's the Sith master. But it fell flat. Go ahead, Only.
All right. Sit back, everybody. Get ready. My jaw. I'm definitely happier about this than everybody else. My jaw was on the fucking floor when I saw this guy. I fucking love me some goddamn Sith. I love me some fucking Plagueis. I thought he looked fucking cool. I kind of understand the reluctance of having him hiding in the shadows. However, there's so much context with this that we don't even fucking know, which is a problem. That there is many logical explanations of why he's kind of hiding. But the problem is we know nothing. So yes, almost pissed my pants, geeked out, was so fucking happy. The way they've done the dark side people in this show, I think, have been great. Specifically just Qimir as the stranger and then Darth Plagueis. But there's so much to unpack here that kills me. There's no context to this series with Plagueis. Does Qimir know he's there? We don't know. Is Qimir even really a Sith? Because remember, they teased the Knights of Ren thing from earlier. So the question of that brings in of like, okay, so does Plagueis know Qimir? Is he spying on Qimir? Or is this his apprentice? Is he pulling the strings? There's also the placement of this. This could have been an amazing ending shot if they had just moved this to the ending. And I know Leslie Headland talked about this in an article, how she didn't want that to be the ending because it's supposed to be dark, and she wants to end on a happier note. Mae and Osha and Qimir are not good people. They kill people. They've killed many of people. She just choked somebody to death. I know he killed her mom and everything like that, but he loved her. So trying to say that, oh, I don't want to end it in an evil, bad way, and this guy's really pulling the strings the whole time, that actually makes it more of this little mystery thriller thing that you've been trying to do for so long. So that would have been a great thing. Plagueis being alive in this timeline doesn't bother me, but you need to give me the story behind it, because Plagueis, one of the things he does is learn from his master, Tenebris. Tenebris got into maxi-chlorians and everything like that and trying to manipulate people. He was trying to see the future and stuff like that. Plagueis got into the midi-chlorians itself, manipulating the midi-chlorians to prolong his life, to cause death, to really do something with the Force and understand it on a scientific and biological level. So it would make sense if he's alive at this time, and he's been alive for a long time. They say in the book that he's trained for like hundreds of years in human years. So he is around for a long time. So him being alive, not a big deal. How though? When was he born? When stuff like that does matter. I don't need a specific date, but I need some context and history to what's going on here. You bring it in at the end so to give us the promise of a season 2 of then, oh, now I'm going to explain this. So if Qimir isn't the Sith, because we've had that Knights of Ren tease, then is Plagueis the apprentice? Is Tenebris still alive? That would be shocking. That would be even kind of cool. But all we got was a shot of him creeping over the side. And when it comes to Plagueis and his influence on this, I get a little nervous. What we have established in canon, in the Book of Secrets of Sith, Palpatine says that Plagueis tried to create a dyad between these two Sith, Plagueis and Palpatine, because that's what the Rule 2 is kind of based on, the new canon. I fucking hate that, but fine, whatever. They're trying to do things to make Rey and Kylo Ren in the sequel seem important, so that's what they're going for here. So they could be trying to explore that. Leslie Headland could be looking at that book and saying, okay, Plagueis is trying to create a dyad. He knows about this ancient thing. This is deep Sith lore and all that shit. So he's trying to create a dyad, and he's looking for the perfect people to do this. You have something like Mae and Osha, who are literally the same person split because of a divergence on the Force on the planet of Brindok. They could be trying to go for that, where Plagueis is like, oh, I need these two girls to create that dyad, and then I take over them like my master tried to take over me. All the shit that I'm saying is fucking fire and fucking cool, but are they going to go through with it? They brought this in to make the series feel like it's important in the grander scheme of the Skywalker saga. The problem is you have no context for Plagueis. You have no motivations for what is going on with him or why he's here. I love what Lunga said. He could have came in at the end. He didn't even have to say anything. Qimir could have just looked at him and been like, Master? And I would have been like, oh, fuck. I didn't get any of that. So yes, fucking epic that he came in. I love the way he looked. I don't give a fuck that he was hiding in the shadows. The Sith, that's what they're doing now. So fucking cool.
No!
But
they're literally hiding in plain sight. That is the whole thing. What do you mean?
But hang on. That doesn't happen.
Their intentions are in the shadows.
Yes, I know.
Physical form is in plain sight.
But for 1,000 years, with the Bainite Rule of 2, they have been doing everything in the shadows. Tenebris was one of the first to really make his name known throughout the war, because he was in politics as well. He is the reason Plagueis.
He was a scientist. He was a big scientist too. He was a very big
scientist, and he had a big ship, the Beldemnik stuff. He was like the owner of that planet and stuff. So yes, Plagueis did do the in plain sight stuff, but maybe because he is so old, he stepped back. And another thing that happens,
it's not that. This is something between him. This is something between him and Qimir. That's what it is. It's not about the galaxy as a whole. He's spying on perhaps his apprentice, which maybe, or he's spying on some other dark side users to get an apprentice, because maybe he's like you said, maybe he's still with Tenebris.
Or maybe he's spying on Mae and Osha because he knew about them, but didn't know about Qimir.
Well, Beldemnik is the place he's been to a lot of times, and Qimir was there, so I think.
But that's not in that's in the Legends thing, man. Like we said, she might be doing her own canon, her own lore, like that. That's the problem with this, is that you try to. They don't even give you the planet name, but we all know it's Beldemnik because of the Cortosis armor.
But like you said, all those questions, right? That you said, is he his apprentice? Is he this? All that stuff would have been great for a season 2 if we had a satisfying story for season 1. That's great stuff to fodder for season 2. If we had a good story for season 1, but the reason why it falls flat is because of that.
Well, and the problem with trying to do a season 2 now is, let me ask you guys this: like, what do you do? Because if they did follow the storyline of Qimir and Osha training as Sith and him making her apprentice, fine. Those two are the lead characters, and then Plagueis is doing shit in the background. You got me on a season 2. But then you got Mae and the Jedi. So there's going to be shit with that. Now they're going to be looking specifically. Vernestra is going to be looking for Qimir because she knows he's alive. So there is that little hunt that will be going on in a season 2. But what they did
It's
with
going to
season
boil
1,
down to those characters.
yeah, but what they did with season 1 is break that stuff up into 2-episode blocks spread across 8 episodes in a weird pattern where you're going to have 2 episodes about Vernestra and Qimir. You're going to have 2 episodes about Qimir and fucking Osha. You're going to have 2 episodes about Mae, and then maybe
Separated
you'll have 2
episode
episodes. Yeah.
3 and
Oh,
8.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's going to be fucking horrible. And you might have 2 more fucking flashback episodes to explain what happened with Vernestra and Qimir. Honestly, that's season 2 right there. So the question with you guys is with the Darth Plagueis stuff, with this story being wrapped up in the way it did in introducing Plagueis, does that make you want to see that story played out, or are you just kind of done with everything and you're like, no, don't do anything else. Just stop while you're
I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm the one that I will listen. It's Star Wars. I'm going to watch it. There's people who keep quitting. Like, I'm done. I can't watch this no more. Listen, hope springs eternal. Okay. And I know people, Disney has burned me far too many times. I can't do it again. Okay. Listen, they're not my girlfriend. They're not cheating on me. It's not that deep. Okay. It's like, things that get bad. For so long, we're waiting for good superhero movies, man. You know how bad superhero shit was in the 80s and 90s? It was fucking horrendous. Okay? 20 years of bad superhero shit, man. And it finally got good when the MCU came out. So, things go like this. They ebb and flow, So, we're in a downturn. But, I'm hoping things will get better. And when we have the things like Andor, it's like, it gives you hope. It's like, you know what? Mando season 1, 2, it's like, listen, they can do good shit. So, yeah, hope springs from maybe Leslie Headland's been around. Maybe she'll learn from her mistakes from this one. So yeah, I'm gonna watch it, and I know a lot of people saying, "Oh, there's no way." You kind of hinted at it. There's no way that they're gonna do it after the number. We talked about it in Discord. Ahsoka got nominated for like 5 or 6 Emmys, guys. No, it wasn't for like writing and acting, and it was for makeup and stuff like that, and dress, clothing, and wardrobe, whatever. But those numbers, we're talking about how bad they were, right? They're going to do a season 2. They're going to do, unless something dramatic happens, they're going to do a season 2.
Palpamemes, hop on in, brother.
Yeah, I'm getting my thoughts. When I watched it, absolutely. I'm always an optimistic person. I think, am I eager for a season 2? A storyline that follows Darth Plagueis and all this? Absolutely not. Given the writing of this show, I do not want this type of writing to stay persistent and consistent with something revolving Darth Plagueis, simply because of how much that character means to me. And so would I be open to a spin-off of the Acolyte that's ran by maybe someone else? Abso-flippin-lutely, I would love that. And that's the thing about the show. I think there's a lot of ideas that you can spring off of, that you can do a spin-off. But for a season 2 of the Acolyte, I think you could do some good stuff where Vernestra tries to find Qimir, and we learn more about that as we spoke about. I would be okay with that. I don't know, the Plagueis stuff, it's, you're on thin ice at that point, and I really don't want them to mess it up, and unfortunately, I don't think the talent is there to properly fulfill and execute the kind of story that needs to be told for someone like Darth Plagueis, because we already have the freaking story, and it was phenomenal. And so it'd be even more heartbreaking if they messed that up. But I'm with Lunga. I'm going to watch it. I love Star Wars. I am always hoping and open to Star Wars being better. But I'm just not very eager for it, because this season was just a complete letdown for me, and I don't have any reason at the moment to think that season 2 would be any different.
Yeah, like what example? Like, this is my for all of us, our most anticipated show coming up.
Is
season 2 gonna be my anticipated?
No, not at all. Not it'll be the least.
Andor, here we come. Yeah,
that's why I don't want more of this. I don't want them to follow the storyline, because to me with Darth Plagueis, I'm like, okay, fine. You touched on it a little bit. Please don't don't even get involved in it. I don't trust the writers. I don't trust the directors. I don't trust Leslie Headland anymore. I gave you every benefit of the doubt. I gave you every chance in the fucking world, and you didn't deliver. I apologize. So I'm good. I don't when it comes to season 2, fine, whatever. I think they know they want to wrap up the Osha, Mae, and Qimir storyline. My problem with Star Wars has consistently been they don't kill anybody. They never do. So these people die eventually, I'm assuming, by the time of the Phantom Menace. They probably never show that or touch on that. They probably don't want to. So
Palpatine's going to
really
have to
don't.
kill them at some point. Yeah.
So,
Or not
sure, maybe
Palpatine. I mean,
Palpatine, maybe
I mean
Plagueis.
Plagueis. That's what I meant. Plagueis is going to have to
yeah.
kill
Well,
him at some point.
I want to jump in. Like, I do think when we talk about Plagueis Chimera, and this is backtracking a little bit, I apologize, but with that one random line that insinuates that Chimera has been around a long time, I'm simply connecting that to Darth Plagueis doing experiments, and maybe Chimera is part of his experiment of trying to elongate life and keep people young, and that would be interesting. I would like that. That would be a really cool idea.
Yeah,
And just this is a little off topic, but it kind of plays into it, and people are going to probably say that I'm an asshole, but like people have been talking about in the comments about humanizing the bad guys, and you were saying something only about how the kind of stuff they were doing with the Sith and stuff, and when you said like she wanted to end it on a happy note, and Osha, Mae, and Qimir are bad people, it's like they did bad things. Especially her age group and people who are into fan fiction. A lot of women that are into that and young girls that are into that, they do romanticize the villain. It happens a lot in fan fiction. They have the crush on the bad guy, the bad boy, the whole, I mean, this goes back to the 50s with the biker gangs. The girls have the crush on the bad boy. Okay.
For sure.
And I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with that as a consumer of media. That's fine. If that's your thing, go for it. But now when you're heading a show and you're writing it and you take those fantasies of yours and you push it into it, and I have no problem with complex characters. I don't need I don't need this black and white evil and good. I don't need that. I like complex characters. I always liked Batman, Wolverine, Raphael, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's my jam. I like those complex characters that kind of push the line on things. I mean, even on the good side or the bad side, or they're bad, but you see some humanity in them, right? Because at the end of the day, I mean, I know people like to imagine that they're just pure evil. They're born pure evil. The only ones I've seen that way from the beginning to end in anything in Star Wars has been like Palpatine. This motherfucker, in everything we've seen him in the books, just an asshole from the day he was born. Okay, he was just a. What I mean? Like, even Palpatine in the novel, guys, we're not talking about Disney. In the novel, they kind of humanize him because Tenebris literally arranged a marriage with his parents to have him born and groomed him from a child to be his apprentice. So, so you think, well, he ended up this way because this is what he was groomed as. It was like the reverse of what the Jedi do. You know what I mean? So I have no problem with that. But when you're heading a show and you say, oh, I wanted the ending to be happy with the view of the murderous duo, it's like, is that a happy ending? Oh, she got her bad boy boyfriend. That's not a happy ending, bro. They're bad people.
Well, and she also fucking killed Soul. Like, she force choked him, and he was like, "It's okay," and everything. That was an emotional and powerful moment, but it's not a happy ending. It doesn't give you good feelings, but it does give you shock. It does make you feel something. I was sad that he died.
Well, because it shows you that Soul, he knew he was reluctant to admit that he made some mistakes. Okay. Yeah. He still believed what he did was right, but he realized what he did with her afterwards was wrong.
Yeah.
He wasn't saying killing her was wrong. He was saying keeping it from you, all the things I thought that I was doing right was wrong. And it caused you to be this way now.
Well,
so that's what he was wrong about.
Best for her, what he thought was best.
Yeah.
It was a very parent-like thing. And he was even going to say, I love you and everything. And I thought like that was kind of a powerful moment that
because his acting is fucking ridiculous. He's so good.
He stole the show a lot of times in this series. Do you guys want to touch on that ending part, that big climax of the characters before we wrap up the show? Because Osha not only force chokes and kills Soul, she bleeds her kyber crystal, and then immediately after they mind wipe Mae. I mean, these are all kind of big points for some of these
Yeah.
characters. Palpatine's, I'll let you get started on this. How did you feel with the climax of all these characters? Osha killing Soul, bleeding her kyber crystal, truly becoming like a Sith in a way. I mean, that's something very powerful. And then after that,
Yeah.
deciding to wipe the memory of her sister or herself. Whatever
Yeah,
the fuck.
I was still confused by Osha's motivations and all that. I understand her being so angry that she found out that Soul killed her mother. I understand that. I get that. But the ending and the climax just felt very, very abrupt. Is the best way I can explain it. It felt very abrupt, like everything just happened like that, including the mind wipe, which I'll talk about. Seeing the Kyber crystal bleed in live action, it was underwhelming for one reason, because we've seen it in not live action, and Lunga, you're gonna hate me, but in a video game, and it's a very, very, very powerful effect. Like it causes a lot happens when that happens. And Jedi Survivor did it very, very well. Looked freaking dope in that game. And this was a little bit just like, it just kind of happens. It was bleeding and now it's red. And hate me all you want, you guys. I just didn't like the effect on the lightsaber blade. Again, it was one I could make with my NeoPixel, and I get my camera, it looked literally just like that. I wish they did a little bit more VFX on top of it, but that's, I know Lunga's, shaking his head. I get it. That's my own subjective thing. I'm petty about stuff like that. My biggest thing was the mind wipe in Osha joining Qimir and Mae leaving Qimir. I guess, it kind of makes sense because Mae betrayed Qimir. Maybe that's a proper explanation. But again, we don't even know what Qimir wants. So what the hell? And I wasn't convinced that Osha would just willingly join Qimir just like that. It was not convincing for me at all, let alone let her sister, whom she hated for so long, but then she's fine with her night, whatever, would allow Qimir to mind wipe her in 3 seconds. That took away 16 years of memories, and Vernestra somehow knows that that's exactly what happened, I guess. That's cool. But I was okay with a lot of the choices. It just felt very abrupt. I thought the pacing of it could have been stretched out a little bit better.
I'm pretty much opposite on most of the things you said, because I don't think it was abrupt. That was the point, that she's been holding all this in this whole time, or in denial, I should say, in denial the whole time, of what was happening. And those emotions are powerful, and that plays into how someone falls to the dark side. It's a powerful thing that happens, and it can happen like that. And again, the Jedi Fallen Order, the Jedi Survivor, fuck the game. Okay. I like it as a slow thing. It's a bleed, right? It's not slashing someone's neck open. It's not supposed to be this, I like it as a slow bleed. And even the blade, it was like bleeding into it as it was kind of coursing up into it. I thought that was one of the best parts of the episode, and one of the best parts of the series. I thought that they did that actually pretty damn well. As far as your comment about the fucking NeoPixel shit, did you ever consider the fact that maybe they look like, you say, oh, my NeoPixel is because the technology that we now have at home in our hands is so fucking good? Compare that to the fucking,
and I don't think it translates.
Our NeoPixels look better than the prequels. Okay, it's just okay. So that is some severe nitpicking. It looks fine.
And I admit
but
that.
Yeah, but I like the bleeding of the crystal, and I don't think it was abrupt. I thought that was one of the few parts of it I think they handled well. And one of the parts that, like I said, when I'm watching this, I'm like, this moment would have been so cool if the previous 7 episodes built up to it correctly. Okay. It was a good moment, and I liked how they did it. I liked how they displayed it. And it was her having all this pent up anger that she was keeping down. Like when she's talking about I couldn't control my negative emotions. That's why I had to leave the Jedi Order. I couldn't control, and she stopped controlling her negative emotions at that moment. That's the thing. And when you look at it from that perspective, it's like, oh, okay, it makes sense. But again, and I was trying to comment on, I've redone this video 30 times with this one guy that's really annoying me on Twitter, or TikTok, who does these lore videos. I guess they're a bigger-ish channel, and he's just very condescending in his tone. He talks very quiet and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And he's just like, Like, I just know so much more than the rest of you. But you know what? It's okay. I'll teach you. But you know, I got it. I have intelligence. I can figure what they're trying to tell me. But I do look at it like it's a little pompous, but I also look at it the other way. I'm only getting it because I analyze things so much. The average person shouldn't have to fucking do that. The average person should be able to get it through the context you're giving them of the entire story without having to like do this deep dive. I need to smoke 3 blunts to fucking understand this fucking show. You know, you shouldn't have to fucking do that. So that's why this great moment that I thought was done so well ultimately fails the show because the show didn't live up to it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat where it doesn't have as much impact that I think it could have or should have, and been as shocking. I think her killing Soul and Force choking him was very powerful, and I will admit I didn't really catch at the beginning of the series the whole killing a Jedi without a weapon. It didn't occur to me that a Force choke would be the way a dark side user would do it, and I like that. Even Qimir was kind of shocked by it. He was like, "Oh my gosh, like she's powerful."
Because we've never seen anyone do it to completion.
Yeah, no,
we've seen it as a threat.
Vader's
we've seen it
done
as
Vader's killed a lot of people.
Oh yeah. He
So,
killed the Admiral. He choked him right there. Yeah.
yeah,
I forgot about that.
For
Right.
the last time.
Last time, Admiral. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, with this though, it was just kind of like, wow, like she's doing it for the first time. You see her slowly choke the life out of Soul, and him being like, "It's okay." Like he's crying. Like, it is emotional, man. I did like that aspect of it, but like I've said before, it took so long to get to this point. I do think that it bleeding the Kyber crystal as she does it. I'm with Palpamemes. I do think the lightsabers, and honestly, it's not just the lightsabers though. I know it's the whole show. I know it's the way they made the show. A lot of it does look corny. It looks like a CW show. It's just not that visually appealing to me. But fine, so be it. It's what it is. Mae getting her
I've watched a
memory
lot
wiped.
of CW, far more than I should have.
Yeah,
Trust me.
I know.
It's
I
not
know.
that bad.
You're able to tolerate the bad looks more than I am. But I'm picky.
No,
about
it's not
this shit.
that. I've watched enough of the bad looks to know this isn't it.
I've seen enough Star Wars to know that this isn't it, sir. Mae memory wipe. Couple complaints with it. I'm with Palpamemes. I thought the Qimir just waving his hand and wiping away like 16 years of memory and everything is shocking. In Knights of the Old Republic, when the Jedi Council does it to Revan, notice how I said the Jedi Council? Because Revan's very powerful, so it took all of them to do it. It is implied that it took a minute. You know, everybody works together. Even Mace Windu, Obi-Wan, and Anakin had to team up on the Geonosian guy in Clone Wars to read his mind. So to wipe somebody's mind is just no, I'm just gonna wave at you.
Well, and we know how powerful Mae is. Right? We were told directly. how powerful.
Yeah.
Well, no,
like
she's actually not that powerful in the Force. That's the thing. Osha's actually stronger in the Force than she is.
Okay, but throughout the whole show that they've been showing the opposite, that Mae could do the Force pushes and the Force blocks and everything like that.
She did Force pushes. That kids learn that as fucking Padawan learners. What are you talking about?
Okay,
Force push is the fucking most basic fucking Force maneuver you could do.
But not a Force block. She was doing that at like fucking 8 years old, and Osha couldn't even Force pull a Pip in a time of crisis and everything like that. That
was a mental
with the way
block.
They were doing some stuff. Yeah, whatever the fuck.
That was the whole point of the sensory deprivation chamber. It
unlocked everything for her and everything.
Yeah.
But still, Mae getting her memory wiped, it goes back to the characters of like, what is Mae's motivation? Why is she just okay with doing this? Like, I know she will do anything and loves her sister to death, but like, is that literally your only motivation? Your sister 24/7? Because Osha is not the same, but it's also
can't be because she didn't know she was alive until this happened.
Exactly. Well, I guess you could say with revenge for her sister, but then she finds out she's alive. Oh, I'll turn myself into the Jedi. Actually, no, I won't. And I'm gonna kill Saul, and I'm gonna kill Qimir, and it's a lot. And I don't know what they're trying to do with Osha either. Of like, okay, so is she just now fully into the dark side? She wants to what does she want? She killed the guy who killed her mom. Does she want revenge on the other? Well, the other Jedi are dead. What does she want from this? And wiping Mae's memory to cover for her is fine, but it's also kind of like, well, was that needed? Because you guys escaped without
It was a plot
any issue,
convenience.
really.
It was a plot convenience for whatever they're doing next. Because, like I said at the beginning of this, they'll use you to find me. They can't use you to find you if she doesn't know where the fuck you are. Again, we established that Luke Skywalker, no one could find him because we needed to find this whole section of a map just to find Luke Skywalker in this very big galaxy. Okay? If Mae doesn't know where they're going, they could go. Where'd they go? I don't know. They took off. I don't even know where they went. And you'll never find them because I can't tell you. I don't know where they are.
Is mind reading. They if they could read the
if she doesn't know where they went, they can't read anything.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, because she can also be read into like where she came from, where Qimir.
Yeah, that would be kind of bad. That would be kind of bad.
But if Qimir picks a random place, he's going to take her. Again, they're not going to be able to figure that out.
I'm talking about her history with Qimir. Right?
Yeah,
but finds that.
Yeah, I guess that. But that wasn't about finding Osha. The whole reason is so they would find her.
That's me writing the story for them. Okay.
Oh my god. Speaking of stories, you guys like the member berries in this episode? Do you guys remember some of the member berries? Like when you remember. Well, you got Yoda.
Oh, Yoda taking a shit? Why are you interrupting my shit, Vernestra?
Yeah. You got Yoda at the end. She's like, Master. And
another lie.
Yoda, remember him.
Oh, it's going to be about the Sith. It isn't. We didn't get Yoda. And they fucking put Yoda. I know he didn't say anything or do anything. And there's another question. Who the fuck was she talking to on the phone? I need to speak to him.
Just like Sheev Palpatine.
It sounded like Palpatine's voice from the audiobooks. Not Palpatine, Plagueis' voice from the audiobooks. That's what it sounded
I didn't
like.
think so. I thought she was talking to like a senator or something like that.
It could have been. I need to see him right away, and then it was cut off, or something like that. But then she sees Yoda. I don't see her. I mean, maybe she was talking to another Jedi, to be able to get an audience with Yoda. I don't know. I mean, that's the only link I can make with it. But again, these are these little things, just like fucking the little fucking tracker dude doing what he did, that look like they make no sense. This is where it's like, what are you doing here? Are you just doing it just to do it? Yeah, what it's like, how does this fit into the fucking story? But yeah, other member berries, I didn't even ignore them. I'm not kidding you. I've said this to you. It was literally a blink and you missed it. I didn't even know they showed Plagueis in my first watching. People were talking about it. are they joking? Is this a joke? Like they're doing it like, oh yeah, it was great seeing Plagueis because we didn't see him. I'm like, fuck, I gotta watch it again now just to find. And I'm like, oh motherfucker. Maybe I sneezed or I blinked and I'm like, what the fuck? How did I miss that? I was looking at the ship. I was like hyper focusing on a ship flying away and didn't notice the fucking hand come. Yeah, I mean, the member berries, I don't think it was a big deal. I don't think there was many of note to make a big difference. We got the Yoda, even though she lied flat out about that, saying there wasn't supposed to be Yoda. And it's like, well, then why was he in there? I think what happened was they filmed it. They were told they couldn't use it. And then the shit was going so bad that they decided to add it in at the end.
I know they didn't add it in the end because she said in the interview that like Plagueis was there in the finale from the beginning. It's just
she's obviously lied. I just mentioned it. She lied to us about the Sith, and she lied to us about Yoda being in it. So now you're gonna believe what she says here?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I will give you that and concede that. I do like the member berries in this though. Where Vernestra's like a people mind before we turn to evil, and then she tells the other guys to leave us, just like you remember Palpatine doing, and then Osha and Mae escape through like the Empire Strikes Back looking tunnel thing. I fucking love member and shit like that.
That she literally did the whole Luke Skywalker thing where she got sucked through the tube. That's how she survived. So they answered one question. I kept saying, "How did she survive?" They haven't told us. Oh, there we go. She got sucked through the ventilation shaft.
Exactly. So to wrap this up, because we got to go, we got to give our ratings, gentlemen.
Well, let's get that super chat first. From
yeah. Gus, our boy, our member, Gus Newman.
I remember Gus.
Let me scroll it back here. Here it is. Oh, geez, Gus, you're being way too generous there, but thank you.
What a fucking sweetheart. That's why you got to be part of the members, because we'll member our members.
I remember Gus.
I got here late. I'll catch up on the replay. I enjoyed bits of the episode. Still, the writing was a bit sloppy, and unfortunately,
I
Gus,
think we all
didn't
agree.
miss anything in the episode. Yeah, but it's basically been our sentiment the entire time. So before we wrap this up, guys, Lunga, quickly give us your rating. And was this a banger episode?
I mean, I think I gave it in my whole opening.
Yeah, you said like a 2 out of 10.
Thing it. Yeah, I guess I'll finish that line. So I go, everyone in the fandom is now dumber for having watched it, even those that enjoyed it. So I guess I'd say I award it no rank. May God have mercy on their soul.
You can't do that. You can't
It's
give no rank. What the fuck?
It's just like no points. I awarded no points. Here, this is my honest review of it and final rating of it. As an episode alone, I thought it was well put together. And I think I've had to say this so many times with every episode we've watched that I've enjoyed. As an episode alone, it did well, and it did what it was meant to do as that episode to close out a series, okay? But when you tie it together with the shit show that was this series, it didn't do the job because the series sucked. And the threads they should have tied up, they didn't, and the threads they tie up didn't really need to be tied up. And it's so hard for me to give it a fucking rating because it's like, do I just rate it on its merits? It's the last episode of the fucking series. You know, if I have to rate it just on its merits and ignore the other 7 episodes, it's a 6, possibly 7. But when I look at it as the finale and look at the 7 episodes that came for it, it's a fucking 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. And that's what people don't get. They're like, oh, you're just a hater. When you attack people that doesn't like the shows. No, motherfuckers. I see the good things they do. I see the good things they could have done, even with not taking my ideas, just the elements that they had. If they... Listen, anyone can take fucking water, salt, and pasta and tomatoes and throw them together. But only certain people are going to make fucking lasagna right. Okay? It doesn't mean it's all going to come out great. My wife proved that because that's why I had to make it afterwards because she's like, I made it. It did not come out good. I'm like, all right, I'll do it. Same ingredients. Okay. They don't know how to fucking execute and they have failed to execute. And this is what frustrates me about the people that love it so much. Not that they love it because it's subjective. You can love whatever you want. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you for liking it, but the denial of the shit that they did obviously wrong in a writing sense. Okay, in a narrative sense, in a structure sense. And I have to say, because I argued with Peltmeans before, and you did too, about the whole how, writing is subjective. It just is. You can't say there's nothing objective about writing. I have to restructure that a little bit.
Mm.
Your enjoyment of writing is purely subjective. Okay? There's a lot of trashy movies I like. Okay? I acknowledge they're trash, but I liked it. I had fun with it. Okay, I can, just like Ted, I can watch that fucking Flash Gordon movie. The movie's fucking trash, man. Okay, but I have fun watching it. Okay, but when people ignore the obvious problems in something, even if they like it, okay, now you are using your subjectivity to try to deny other people's pointing out things you choose to ignore. That because you have a lower tolerance for bad writing, okay, than other people. You think there's something wrong with them. I don't think there's anything wrong with you for having a lower tolerance. If you like it, you like it. Okay? But don't sit here and tell me what I'm saying is fucking hogwash just because I thought it was great. How can you even think this? I said, no, it's not. And just come up with these fucking coping things, over and over and over again on why it was good. It's like, bro, all you have to say is, man, I liked it. That's your only coping you need. I liked it. Not sit here and try to, like, why is me giving my reasons on why it was not written well, which many people can agree on, even if you're not a Star Wars fan, just watching it, people who are critics can look at it and say, this was just not put together well. Why is me saying that such a threat to your enjoyment of it? Enjoy it. Your tolerance is low. That's great. Mine is not as that low. Sorry, I have a little bit more of a discerning eye. That doesn't mean you suck and you like sucky shit. It's okay. You like it, you like it. But fuck, man. We gotta, there comes a time where people have to say, yeah, you know what? I say it over and over again about shit that I like. Okay, the prequels. I like the prequels. I still watch them. They were fucking bad. Okay, but I like them. But I acknowledge the fact that they were bad. I don't get it.
So what was the rating? 6 out of 10 or 2 out of 10?
I told you I can't. It's a 2, or if I'm rating it on its own merits of just how the episode was put together, it was put together way better than most of their episodes. Like, they finally got it, which I know they're not filmed in that order, right? But it's like they fucking got it finally in this episode, from acting to writing and everything else. Yeah, it's a decent, well put together episode, but as the finale for this series and everything came before it is fucking shitty. So I don't know. You pick. It's a 2 or a 6, depending on whatever you decide to throw me at.
All right, pal memes.
I mean, he kind of said everything I could possibly say about this show.
Just give me a rating, goddammit. He just gave us everything we basically wanted to say about this show.
Oh gosh.
2 out of 6 certified banger. There you go.
I was gonna come up with a rating as I talked about it, because I would come to the conclusion then. But right now I'm sitting at a 3 out of 10, because it had the cool action like episode 5, but it had a little bit more substance with the characters, the story at the very, 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 very least. No, wait, no, I rated that a 4. No, there's no way I rate this a 5 out of 10. You know what? Okay. No, we're going with a 3.5 out of 10. I can't give it a 4.
You're in the same position I am in some ways, maybe a little different reasons, but
the way
it's
you
tough.
put it in context of like the whole series, like, yeah, it's like, okay, if I'm judging the whole series and how this ties into everything, yeah, it's going to be a poor rating. But this episode alone was definitely a lot more enjoyable than many of the others. And there's some episodes like that where, like, on their own they're cool, but in the context of the story, it's pretty bad. I don't know. I thought this was a certified banger, bro. I thought it was a certified banger. I enjoyed it. I thought there was a lot of cool moments in it. But the acting is horrible. The writing is atrocious. And the ending was satisfying for some characters, but unsatisfying as a series overall. So, yeah, certified banger. Usually the shit that we expect. And a lot of member berries. 5 out of 10 for an episode. For an episode of 5 out of 10, no doubt. If we're talking about the context of the series, it's more like a 3 to a 4, yeah. But they're making the show into this thing where, like, no, you have to wait for the whole story to play out before you really judge it, which fucking sucks.
And then we get here. Can we now officially say it sucks? We saw all 8 episodes. I mean,
no, you got to wait for season 2.
Well, actually, season 2.
Say,
now it's season 2. No, you got to wait till season 2.
Yeah, you have to wait till season 2. You can't.
Your whole perspective of season 1 will change once you see season 2.
Did you judge the original trilogy off of just A New Hope alone? No, you needed Empire. You needed Empire to make it better.
Remember the fucker? We didn't even know George didn't know if he was gonna be able to make Empire. Okay,
no, he didn't.
Which is why A New Hope ended. There was stuff that it's open to make more, but it ended on, okay, this story ended. The movie had an ending. Okay,
and he felt happy. You were excited for future stories.
Listen, yeah, they got all this stuff. Chewbacca didn't get a medal. It went great,
and it was gonna be great. You know what's also gonna be great? Next fucking week when we come back and do a full review of the entire Acolyte series. We've all committed to rewatching the series every day leading up to the Wednesday night. Yeah, it's in our contract.
I don't remember that. Oh, that's right. I remember reading none of that contract that I signed.
Yeah, so every single day we're gonna at high noon we're all gonna start the Acolyte on episode 1 and end on episode 8.
I'm gonna need some high noons to get through it.
Oh God. Oh my God. But yeah, before we close out the show, big shout out to the channel members who you guys might remember from today's episode, giving us gracious super chats like Grievous Reborn, Katie Miller, my boy Gus Newman, Leor M, and don't forget Tom. And don't forget my boy and your boy, that Cloney boy. Shout out to all the members.
I do want to mention this before you go into your closing here. Someone brought it up earlier too. Zach Ray's talking about Goldman lurking in the chat.
I just read that comment.
Listen. Or Grievous said, I know Goldman is lurking in the chat. Listen, guys. And someone mentioned, where is he? You guys want to know where Goldman is? You can hit him up on Twitter at thegoldman25, and you could ask him why he's not here. Matter of fact, I encourage it for all of you. to tweet at the Goldman to say, "Where were you, fam?" Just send him the tweet, and we'll go from there.
And then you'll realize how hated this show really is. He chose to lurk in the shadows and watch from afar. He's like, God damn, they're still talking about the fucking Acolyte. Oh my God. But yeah, no, tune in next week because Goldman will be back. We'll be doing a full series review. And then after that, might be taking a slight couple-week break from Star Wars, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be covering like the boys.
Couple weeks.
And yeah, well, it's in debate.
December,
it's
bro.
In debate. Yeah, I know. If you guys have any like ideas for what you want us to talk about after the Acolyte and everything ends, please let us know because it is going to be a dry spell, and we're going to do everything we can to keep stuff coming. But you might have to give us a minute to get some stuff together. But anywho, we'll come in next week, review the full series of the Acolyte. So if you stuck around this long, leave a like. Tune in next week when we cover the whole series, all 8 episodes, every day. You're going to remember how much you loved watching the Acolyte. We'll see you all next week, and remember, the Force will be with you always.
What?